Okay, I'm not sure what this is or where we left off on the last video. This is kind of a where everything's at video because everybody's asking where things are at. You can see I have the dozer up on some what are those 12 by 12 blocks. I've had those things for years. I don't even remember where I got those from, but they work great for bobcats. They work great for little dozers. It gives you some clearance underneath to mess with things. Okay, let's go through. This is your starter. This right here is your suction strainer for your transmission hydraulic lines. This is your hydraulic pump. It is gear driven. It is not connected to your motor, so you can't leak into your motor from that, as some people keep thinking you can. This pump literally picks it up from the tank back there we're going to look at in a minute, and goes into this pump, goes back into the filter on the side of the housing here, and then it makes your tracks move. There is a separate pump that lifts and controls the blade. So, for example, this one right now, we're having some transmission problems, and I'm afraid it's going to be in your torque converter. This housing right here is where your torque converter is at. And unfortunately, I believe that you got to take this whole engine and transfer case out if you have problems with your torque converter. And that's what we're leaning towards right now, that we're having issues with. And from this side you can see these are your steering clutches or steering brakes, whatever you want to call them. This lever here is your parking brake that works on these two levers. Basically, this goes up and locks it, this goes down and locks it. And if you're out of adjustment like this one is, you don't have any parking brake. This is your valve body. Your valve body works the levers that are up top that you normally have to, these levers here that you normally have for controls. So these are your high, low, and right and left transmissions, then your throttles and etc. So anyway, they connect to these levers right here, and then this valve body pulls in and out. So your hydraulic fluid picks up out of this tank, out of the bottom of this tank, goes in through a hard line and comes out to the screen, goes to your hydraulic pump. Your hydraulic pump is driven off the gear when your motor turns. It is not connected to your oil supply or your engine oil. It will not leak into your engine oil from this pump. This is your transmission pump. That is completely driven off of the gears on the front of the motor. From that pump, it goes down on this line and comes back into here, which is under this cover, and that is a filter, and I don't have the cover off to show you, so you just have to take my word for it. But this is where your filter is for that. Now, if we go under here, okay, give me a second. Okay, you can see our valve body up there again. You can see an air vent and the transmission fill right there. So this would be your air vent. Always make sure that's cleaned off every now and then. They get clogged up. And this is your transmission fill. This is the back side of your valve body. Now, one of the older dozers, they had a screen back here, but the case does not, or this year case does not, at least. I think it was the case tonight. Maybe John Deere I'm thinking about. It's hard to remember all these things nowadays. These are basically your transmission gears, and if I think about it, I will try to put a diagram of the breakdown of the transmission gears in here. You have a right and left side and a forward and reverse for all that stuff. You basically got to take the transmission apart from the front side and pull it out. There's no inspection plates really to access that thing and look in and out of there. These are your final drives. There, well, that's a whole nother subject, but these are your final drives, your oil plugs on the side for checking, and a lot of them will leak. Like you see that it's wet around that. No matter what you do to try to stop that, it just kind of keeps leaking unless you weld the thing shut. Kind of call that self-lubricating. Now, underneath of here, underneath of this casing, right, oh boy, I got it right here. I got that. There you go. I think I got you on there. This plug here drains your transmission case, your hydraulic fluid on the transmission case. And then, let me see if I can get underneath of this thing at an angle. This hose right here, this bent hose, is the one that connects to that hard pipe right here. That goes to your suction filter that we just looked at a few minutes ago. And that's basically your stuff that we can see from this bottom. Give me a second. This is your fuel bowl and your fuel shutoff switch. You can clean your fuel bowl out every now and then. It's a good idea. A lot of them might even be replaced with just a straight fitting, which is not a good idea. Let's move around. Okay, of course, your air filter, you know where your air filter is. Your oil filters on the other side, we saw underneath of that pump. Your fuel filters. This is your oil dipstick to check your oil level. Your fuel pump right there. Now, this line right here, if you don't have it, you probably want to put one on there, but this oil line runs up to your gauge pod, and you should have a transmission torque converter pressure. You want to see a little over 200 on that all the time. If you don't, you got an issue. Like I said, this is the opposite side of your torque converter. It bolts to the engine here, and unfortunately the engine mounts are part of the torque converter housing. The only way I know to get it out of there is to disconnect and pull the whole engine, just lift it all out of there in one shot. So if you got torque converter problems, it's an issue. A lot of people sell the dozer when they got the torque converter problem. So on our gauges here, just hold on, I'm gonna put you down, see if I can get to a higher position here. Okay. Let's look at your gauge here. Where is it at? Where is it at? Torque converter. This one right here. This will go to that line we just showed you, and that will show you your torque converter pressure, and then this is your temperature on it, and this one I believe is the one actually that I've got hooked up, the trans pressure, and you should see over 200 on that. He's got basic leveling on here. An older operator, I can do it. Well, I could do it. I can't do it now. I don't know if I can get on the machine and run it right now. But a younger operator runs something simple like this. You can put on your dozer to get an idea of your grade. If you've gotten a 2% slope or a 5% slope or 10% slope. An older operator, a lot of us did it by eye. We didn't have all the fancy computers back then. We didn't have all the, you didn't even have levels stuck up on your machines. You graded it by eye. If you didn't do it right, it meant you spent more time out there grading the thing. So you learned how to do it pretty quick. This is your pattern for your shifters that we looked at a minute ago. You got your forward neutral, you got your high and low and neutral. So both sides have a high and a low and a neutral. A lot of case driver operators work with the handles now, and a big important thing on using it just the handles instead of using these steering pedals, steering brakes, steering clutches, whatever you want to call them. A lot of problem with that is operators, younger operators, newer operators especially, have the dozer under full power and they try to shift with the handles. Well, that puts a lot of wear on the gears. You can break something, you grind the gears, you shave the gears, you're hard on the transmission. If you're going to shift with the handles, if you're going to use these two handles to shift with, you need to let off your throttle, let the engine down a little bit and turn it. This dozer is made to push straight. When you want to turn, you need to be off of your torque. Back up and get yourself readjusted just a hair and go back into your pile. Don't try to do it under power. When you're using these steering pedals, you're basically taking just pressure, that hydraulic pressure that's making that side of the track turn. You're removing that. When you're shift the gear, you're all of a sudden taking all the power at once and getting rid of it, not just gradually letting go of it. But you can see these pedals are, that one still has a little pressure on it, but this one is shot. They need to be rebuilt. And here is a view of the top of the transmission case again. Again, this is your valve body. Each of these are coming in from the sides and your ports. These, let's get your camera at the right angle. This port and this port, this port and this port are your brake lines coming in. So basically they're just kind of gradually blocking the fluid out of one of these two side levers from working. And when you want to fill your transmission, this is your fill, your dipstick to check it. And like I said, this is a, let's see if I can turn it off there. Oh, turn the whole thing off of there. Okay. This is a breather. So you want to clean this breather out along underneath here fairly regularly. You want this to breathe. You don't want it to stop up. Let's put that back in there so we don't get any dirt in there. It's nothing special to it. It's just somewhere to let the pressure out of. And again, this canister right here is the back of your transmission filter. So when you take that plate off on the other side we talked about earlier, this is the transmission filter. This line here is coming from the pump up front that we looked at. It goes into this filter, comes out, goes into this valve body, and the extra returns back. I don't know if I had the camera. This line comes into the valve body here, and then the extra fluid goes off. So you're good with that. What didn't I show you yet? I think that answers everybody's questions at one point or another. Again, diesel fuel. This is a separate hydraulic tank. This hydraulic tank works your blade. Your cylinders are leaking for your lifting your blade or twisting your six-way. It's this tank's going to run dry. This is a separate transmission case. Is a separate hydraulic reservoir. It's a closed system. It is separate from your regular hydraulics. And generally you want to use a transmission fluid in here, or transmission hydraulic fluid. Not the same weight that you run in that. And each brand has their own specific ones, but I mean, these old machines, they run fine on Tractor Supply transmission hydraulics. Oh, there's some more. Okay. Let me get in another position here. Okay. This right here is the front of the case for your transmission. So if you have to rebuild this transmission, you have to do it from this front side. So yeah, there's no good way about doing that. These seals here, somebody's been in this one before and sealed it up. and it leaks some, but it's not too bad. But a big seal that you will have a problem with, and one that I'm probably going to have to do a change on, or I am going to do a change on, is this is your drive shaft right here. Let's make sure I got the camera on that. Okay, this is your drive shaft right here, and you have a knuckle here. There should be some grease fittings. You have a knuckle on the front and the back that nobody ever greases. Oftentimes they'll end up breaking, but there's a seal right here, and I do have a hydraulic leak out of that. I think that's one of my main culprits for using the transmission hydraulic fluid. So we are going to replace that while it's apart, but I'm still trying to find out my torque converter issue, if I got to take the torque converter out. Okay, and if we look up under the front, you can see that's on a spline shaft. It's got a U-joint up under here too, but this basically comes out of your engine into the torque converter. It goes onto this drive shaft, and this drive shaft goes into your transmission. And if I can remember to put the diagrams up here, that'll make sense. You got a whole pack of gears. Each one of these different housings has a shaft with gears on it inside of there, and that's what makes your little machine push. I don't want to go into all the gear ratios, and a dozer is a lot stronger than something like a skid steer because it has all that gearing in there. Even a little machine like this will well out push. That Bobcat over there is a bigger. This is a 43 horsepower engine on this little case. Originally 43 horsepower, and I doubt seriously that it put out that kind of power now. But that Bobcat is a 74 horsepower, and it is considerably stronger, but it cannot push half as much as this little dozer can. That machine right there with the bucket weighs around 10,000 pounds. This one's, I forget what this one is. Maybe 4,000 pounds, something like that. I'd have to look that one up. I'm not sure on the weight on this one right at the moment. So there are grease fittings on these joints. You should grease those joints. Even things like this, there should be a grease fitting on that. You see this little shaft down here, there should be a place to grease it somehow down there. And I know they haven't been greased for a while because I haven't greased them. So these joints over here, these joints may be a whole separate video on redoing bushings, but most of this stuff is just this. There's so much play in this between when you can work your blade. If you're just doing rough pushing and clearing, that's fine, but these little ball joints and things, they're not that expensive to replace. You just got to spend the time to find the right joint and replace it. Things like, I don't know if you can see that, but right there, there's no bushing left in that, so it needs a bushing in it, and that will tighten this whole thing. See how that's moving back and forth? If you can watch that pin, this pin right here with the Carter key in it, you can see that it's just flopping around because there's no bushing inside of there. Maybe somebody took it out at one point in time, maybe it wore out, you don't know. But same thing with this. You see, there's not going to be any bushing in there. That bushing needs to be replaced. The shaft might need to be replaced. It's not that hard to do those kinds of things. They just take a little time to sit down and do them. So we may do a video on replacing all those once I get around to that. But that's pretty much where everything's at. That should help everybody identify the parts on this case 450. As far as our update, we have dropped a 4D battery in there. The new battery that went in here got swiped and went on something else, and yeah, that's where we're at. We are going to start this up and check our torque converter pressure. We don't have any forward or reverse motion. but we can lift the blade, move the blade. Again, those are on separate hydraulic pumps. We've taken apart the screen, we've checked the screen, and there is no there are some trash in there. I don't particularly like Case's screen filter on the suction screen on this dozer, but I mean, it is what it is. A lot of dozers probably don't even have the screen on them anymore. This one didn't have a screen on it when I got it. We've taken the pump apart. There are some light scarring in there, but not enough to affect the hydraulics on it. We've cleaned out and changed the filter. We have drained this transmission case, and I expected to find some trash maybe blocking down in there, or this hard metal tube that you see right here is the one that we showed you, the rubber boot where it goes into the transmission. I don't know if you can see down in there, that rubber boot. That's the one we looked at from the bottom, where it goes from this hard line into the transmission nipple. We removed that and tried to clean up inside of there. Got no trash, everything was clean. So yeah, that leads us back to the torque converter. We're going to see if we get any pressure with it when we start it up. We're going to see if the drive shaft continues to move. If the drive shaft continues to move, that could be a broken gear or a ring gear inside of the torque converter. And I guess all things considered, either removing this transmission and taking it apart, or removing the engine and torque converter. I guess the torque converter would be easier, but neither one of them are super easy. Yeah, but that is something I can get set up with a machine to lift, and then have somebody come help me pick up on it, so we can swing it out and get to it. It's just going to take a little while. It's been a while since we've done these videos, so I'm sorry they space out. I can only do a little bit at a time, and depending on how I feel and what I can get to, and then if I can get help during those times. So where we're at right now is this is what we're going to try. We're going to try to make sure that it is the torque converter, make sure that nothing that we flushed out has freed it up. Our hydraulic fluid is full for the transmission. It should pop right in here and go, but it's not going to. So we are going to check to see if the drive shaft stops spinning, and we're going to see what our trans pressure gauge reads. This one right here, we normally read just over 200 and short of 220. We stay right in that little range. And get the camera on, you can see that. This one right here, we normally stay between 200 and 220 on that. So yeah, that's our next step, and then we'll figure out what has to be taken apart. I'm gonna try to figure that out, and then when he gets back, we can tackle it, what has to be taken apart, and I will give you an update video then. So y'all stay tuned. This is a Case 450 dozer. You know, she's not the beauty queen, but there's a lot of them around. A lot of people use them, so maybe these videos will be helpful.